Thank you for joining Jennifer Schatz and Associates in our 2019 Webinar Wednesday series. We're coming to you live from downtown Washington, D.C. Our webinars are every Wednesday, and you can find the upcoming schedule on our website. Past webinars and all recordings are also on our website and on our YouTube channel, along with over 160 other recordings on federal contracting topics. All are complimentary. If you have questions for our speaker today, you can contact her directly with the contact information you'll see on the last slide. Just a little bit about us. We're a Washington, D.C. based firm and provide services for federal contractors. This ranges from market analysis reports to proposal writing and also post-award compliance. More information is on our website, so please visit us there. These are a few upcoming events that you can find more information here or also on our website. And we now offer advertising, so you can contact me if you want more information. And our webinar today is sponsored by AccuTrack, and here's a short message from them.
Services is an 8A WOSB CPA firm committed to supporting entities sustain growth in government contracting. Our outstanding DCAA accounting solutions reduce audit risk, improve cash flows, and give you peace of mind. Contact us today to learn how we can enhance your DCAA accounting effort.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Today, our speaker is Margaret Cassidy, and we're going to be covering facility clearances and working with the Defense Security Services. Margaret, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thanks, Mallory. Welcome, everyone, to the seminar. And as I go through this, I want everyone to check out Jennifer Schatz's website, because last week we did another seminar on facility clearances that was more basic, how you get started, and we went over some of the definitions of certain aspects of getting your facility clearance. So you could check that out as well as we, if you need to refer to it after this webinar today. So Jennifer, if we could move to the first slide. So when you apply for a facility clearance, it's important to remember that you are getting a clearance for your organization, and you're going to have to establish for the government through the clearance process, through the clearance application process, that you are going to be a competent, capable contractor and take extreme care of the classified materials that you're going to come in contact with as you perform classified contracts. An easy way to think about this is that you are getting a clearance for your organization. Although they call it facility, you will earmark which facilities you want covered. This is very similar to when you get a clearance for a person. People can get clearances, but so can your organization. So in order to qualify to even start the application process, you're going to need the support of either a federal government agency, contracting authority, that says, yes, this government contractor, in fact, needs to have a facility clearance in order to do the work on a particular classified contract. You need the endorsement of the government and support of the government to go get a facility clearance. If it's not the government, you can also have the endorsement of your prime contractor to support you in getting a facility clearance, because you need it for the work that you're doing with the prime contractor. Once you have that sort of approval or support from either the government or a prime contractor, the facility clearance application process starts. The Defense Security Service is the government agency that is responsible and owns sort of making sure that cleared contractors stay in compliance with the laws, and they in fact work with you, or they should work with you, in making sure that you comply with the laws. They are a great resource and a source of information and guidance for you, whether you have a clearance or whether you're going through the process. One of the first things that you'll need to do is you'll start an online questionnaire about your business that's seeking to obtain security clearance. From there, you will eventually have a phone interview with someone from the Defense Security Service. Ultimately, you'll have a site visit, and then you'll have to continue through the online registration. The purpose of this, remember, is so the Defense Security Service can evaluate whether or not you're going to take good care of classified materials, classified information, and whether you are a good candidate to handle classified contracts. They're evaluating the risk that you would pose to not taking good care of classified materials and classified contracts. The information that you provide to DSS throughout this entire process needs to be accurate, truthful, and complete. And as we go through this deck, you're going to see that it actually requires a lot of information and it requires a lot of due diligence. When the government says to you that you have to provide information that's accurate, truthful, and complete, inherent in that statement is that you have to do the necessary digging and due diligence to be able to be sure that what you're representing to them is accurate. So Jennifer, if we can move on to the next slide. One of the things that the government is looking for is whether or not your business is owned, controlled, or otherwise have the interest of a foreign entity. A foreign entity can be a foreign person, a non-U.S. person. It could be a foreign entity or even a foreign government. So a foreign business, a foreign person, or foreign government. DSS is charged with the responsibility of assessing how much control a foreign entity or a foreign person may have over your business, how much ownership they may have, and how much interest they may have. And it's important to remember that as DSS makes this assessment, they are assessing whether the foreign entity or foreign person has the power to control or influence your organization either directly or indirectly. They're looking at, does the foreign entity have the ability to control your operations, which may result in unauthorized access to classified information by a non-U.S. person? Or they also look at whether or not the foreign ownership, control, or interest in your business may adversely affect the performance of a classified contract. And I have there the regulation that gives DSS the power to do this, as well as the guidance, the regulation that says that this information has to be disclosed to the government. It's important to remember that just because you have a foreign person or a foreign entity that has some ownership interest in your business, some control, or some other interest in your business, it doesn't mean you will not get to be a classified contractor. Rather, it means that you're going to have to set up a plan and a program that's endorsed by DSS to demonstrate that you're going to be able to segment your non-U.S. persons and non-U.S. entities from influencing or controlling your classified work. This is one thing DSS is looking for. The other thing they are looking for, whether or not, even if you have no foreign ownership, control, or interest in your organization, DSS is also looking to see to make sure that you as a business have the skills and the knowledge and the capabilities and the resources to protect classified information as you get it. Jennifer, we could move to the next slide. So some of the things that initially you're going to be required to disclose to the DSS are very basic things. Your business structure, how are you structured as an organization, your cage code, your tax ID numbers, your address. You're also going to have to indicate which DSS field office is the one that's going to support you. DSS main offices are in Quantico, but they have field offices around the United States designed to support you as you go about your business as a cleared contractor. You'll need to disclose each entity or person that directly or indirectly owns 5% or more of your business. You'll need to list key management personnel, your directors, officers, significant shareholders, and you need to identify all of these persons, whether they're U.S. or not, even if they're foreign. You're going to be asked to complete a certificate around any foreign ownership, and you're going to be required to provide any details around foreign ownership. You're also going to be asked to identify and to explain any relationships that your business has with foreign entities, and that your executives or owners have with foreign entities or foreign persons. So say your CEO of your American business has an investment in a business in Germany. That type of information is going to have to be disclosed in the process of seeking your security clearance. You're also going to need to identify and explain where your foreign offices are located and how those offices are run. If we can go to the next slide. And also, I think it's important to remember as we go through this deck here, these are only examples of things that you're going to be required to prepare and disclose to DSS. You need to understand that the questions are far broader than this, and they're going to ask you all sorts of additional information in addition to what I'm covering today, or they may ask follow-ups for around the items that I am discussing with you today. On this slide at the bottom, I have a resource. That's the site for DSS, dss.mil. You should go there and review the guidance that DSS has available. It has all sorts of toolkits. It has trainings. It has the NISPOM, which you are expected to read and understand and be able to follow if you're going to become a cleared contractor, because in the course of your site visit and your phone call, your leadership team, your federal security officers, and others in the organization are going to be asked about their understanding of the regulations and laws that will direct you as a cleared contractor. So going back to the items that I have here, again, these are only examples of some of the items that are going to be required for you to gather and to provide to the government in the course of this process. You're going to have to provide an organization chart of your organization, the different functions, who they report to, etc. But you're also going to have to put together a personnel chart that demonstrates who holds different positions in your offices, who they report to, and what their responsibilities are. You're going to have to pull together your bylaws and your state certificate of good standing wherever you are registered as a business. Also, you're going to have to work with your board to develop resolutions excluding certain leaders, excluding certain owners or employees who do not have a clearance. I always get this question: does everyone on my board have to have a clearance? Does everybody on my executive team have to have a clearance? Who has to have a clearance and who doesn't have to have a clearance? There is no hard rule around this. However, if you're going to have leaders involved in decisions, as they should be, your leadership team usually will have to obtain clearances. Same with your board of directors. You should have some people on your board who have clearances, personal clearances. If, however, if you have very involved shareholders who are playing a role as a director, or somehow or they're getting involved in your decision making or leading the company, some of them will also have to have clearances. It's important to remember, however, let's say you have a leadership team of 7, 8 people, and you have your CEO with a clearance, your CFO with a clearance, your chief operations officer with a clearance. But you don't have your head of HR or you don't have your head of IT with clearances. Likewise, you have a board of directors with 7 people, and only 2 of them are going to have a clearance. You're going to have to create a board resolution that explicitly excludes your leadership team and your board members and your shareholders who do not have a clearance from any involvement, any oversight, any managerial decisions, or access to your cleared contracts. So this is something that you will need to think about as an organization. How are you going to structure yourself around who has clearances, who's going to have oversight responsibility, and how are we going to manage that? Your board resolution should reflect how you're going to handle that. Additionally, your board needs to have a discussion with the executive leadership team discussing the fact that you're going to proceed after a security clearance and establishing that your leadership has the knowledge and experience necessary to manage that clearance process. The DSS is looking for this because they want to make sure that your leadership team is taking your clearance situation with some responsibility and with some understanding of the significant investment of human capital as well as other resources that are going to have to be put to this to make sure that you comply with these requirements. Some other documents that you're going to have to pull together: sales agreements, subcontracts, contracts, or any sort of agreement that you have with non-U.S. entities or persons. So for one example, let's say that you have a line of credit from a bank out of Europe. You're going to have to disclose that to the United States government. Let's say you have a sales agreement with somebody in Italy. You're going to have to disclose that agreement. Let's say you have people on your leadership team who are non-U.S. persons. You're going to have to disclose that as well. You're also going to have to establish for the U.S. government that you're complying with export regulations, both in your IT system, that you have compliance controls there, as well as management of hard copies or facilities where there are export controlled materials. Because if you can exhibit that you have good processes and procedures around your export controls, then your export controlled items, the government draws the conclusion that you'll be able to be good at managing the security requirements both in your IT systems and physical security and of your people around classified materials. So you need to think through that process as well. Next slide, please. So on a little bit more on the foreign interest. Again, these are only examples. You need to think about your own business, and you need to make sure that you do enough due diligence across your organization to figure out where you may have foreign interest. Ask yourself, is there any foreign interest in the organization? Does your organizational chart or your personnel chart exhibit ownership or influence of a non-U.S. person? Let's say your VP of HR is in fact somebody from the UK. You're going to have to disclose that. Let's say in your organization chart you are owned by a non-U.S. entity. Then you're going to have to disclose that and then come up with plans for the government to explain how you're going to make sure that these non-U.S. persons do not get involved in the cleared matters. If you have any agreement with foreign entities, clients, business partners, banks, loans, investments, any of these types of things, that is considered an interest from a foreign entity. And you're going to have to not only prepare the materials to show what that interest is, but also explain to the government whether or not that actually, how much influence or control that has over your operations. Let's take a bank loan. If you have a significant line of credit from a non-U.S. bank, and that's a funding source that you use to run your business, the government's going to consider that you have a significant foreign interest then in the operation of your business, because that foreign bank can in fact exert control over your operations by either telling you that you can't access your line of credit or something of that nature, which will result in your business having financial challenges around cash flow if you can't access your line of credit. The government is looking for these types of things to see if there's a way that a non-U.S. entity can control your entity. So you need to think about this. Again, this doesn't mean just because you're borrowing from foreign banks or you have investments for foreign entities that you are precluded. It just means that you need to come up with a risk mitigation plan to manage that foreign entity's exposure and control over your business. And that plan has to be provided to and approved by DSS. If you derive income from foreign entities or foreign clients, then you're going to have to disclose that as well. You're going to have to describe the nature of these relationships. Any factor at all in your business that demonstrates or establishes foreign ownership, control, or interest, generally speaking, you're going to have to reveal that to the government, explain the relationship to the government, and most importantly, develop some sort of mitigation plan so that the government is confident that foreign entity is not going to be able to exert control over your work as a classified contractor. We can go to the next slide. So, you'll ultimately work with the government to come up with a security agreement with the Defense Security Services. This agreement is going to help your organization be clear on what it needs to do to manage any influence of non-U.S. entities or persons. You can develop this agreement. You should work with the DSS on developing this agreement after you've explained what your relationships are. Your security agreement also would need to cover things if you have an affiliate or a subsidiary or vendor who's doing a lot of your operations work, even if they're not foreign. So let's say, for example, you're using an outside firm you're a small business, you're using an outside firm to do your financial operations, your accounting, your payroll, all of those types of things. As a business, you're going to need to think to yourself, through that process of having this outside vendor manage my finances, is there a way that outside business is going to gain knowledge about my classified work, my classified contracts, that they're not allowed to have? If the answer to that is yes, or if DSS thinks the answer to that is yes, then you need to prepare a security agreement with a plan of how you're going to secure your classified contract information and classified materials so that your outside financial services vendor is not in fact getting exposed to those materials. That's point number 2, developing that agreement with non-cleared partners and affiliates that you have. What walls can you set up? What separations can you set up? Both physical separations, IT separations, personnel separations. Can you put in place so that non-U.S. persons aren't controlling or influencing your business or having access to your classified materials? But similarly, non-cleared business partners or non-cleared affiliates. The example that I used was the finance team. If your finance team is external, you have to figure out what you're going to do to make sure that you have walls to protect that external finance team that may not have the required security clearances to have access to your information about your classified contract. And remember, information about your classified contract includes so many things about that contract. It will be defined in the contract itself what you could reveal. And sometimes you can't even reveal to any degree the nature of that contract or that you even have one. So what you need to do is start assessing how outside organizations are involved in your operations, how they're involved in your sales. Look at how each of your functions of your organization works, your finance team, your legal team, your business development, facilities, HR, etc. Another by way of example that you have to think about, let's say you do a shared services model. You're one division and of a big company and you want to go and get a security clearance, but you share HR services with other divisions that only sell commercially and don't sell to the government. Again, you're going to have to develop a plan to figure out how those shared services are going to be handled so that the non-cleared division and the non-cleared functions that are assisting your division do not have access to the cleared materials. You should do this for each of your functions. You're also going to have to work with the DSS in your security agreement on how non-U.S. persons, non-U.S. entities, or non-cleared entities are involved in your business. Once you do these assessments, you should assess the risk of how classified information could potentially be compromised. That is, how could somebody who doesn't have the authority to access classified information actually access it as a result of your business relationships? But additionally, it's not just accessing classified information that DSS is looking at. They are also looking at whether you as a cleared entity, can your independence in executing your classified contract duties somehow be compromised? That goes back to the example that I gave you about the line of credit from a foreign bank. If you have a line of credit from a foreign bank that's substantial, and that foreign bank, if they were to cut that line of credit off, would put you in financial peril or hinder your cash flow such that your operations may be impacted, the DSS is going to expect you to figure out a different way to manage your cash flow. That's only an example that I use to illuminate what you need to look into about how you operate your business. That type of assessment you should undertake for each function of your business and how you're organized. Look at all of your functions, how you deliver your services, how you sell your goods, how you manufacture your stuff, who are your vendors, who do you borrow money from, who are your big clients. If any of those entities have a way of somehow impacting your operations, even if it's indirectly, you're going to need to come up with a plan with DSS to make sure that those entities in your relationship with them do not compromise the execution of a classified contract. You're going to need to explain to DSS how you're going to manage these risks, and then you'll come up with a written agreement to do so. Remember, once you have your security agreement with DSS, you can alter or amend that as the functions or the approach of your business changes. But at the same time, you need to be ahead of that game because you don't want DSS to find out that you've made a change that impacts the security of your contracts or the security of classified information or non-U.S. persons' access to your business. You need to be proactive and have measures and controls to make sure that you tell them and that you make adjustments accordingly. We can go to the next slide. And that wraps up our conversation today around becoming a cleared contractor. If you go down that path, I wish all of you luck, and be sure to collaborate and stay updated with your DSS rep. Thank you, Mallory.
Thank you, Margaret, for sharing your knowledge and insight today. Today's presentation has been recorded and can be found on our website or YouTube channel within about 48 hours. you have questions about today's topic, please contact Margaret at the phone number or email shown on your screen. Thank you, everybody. This concludes the webinar.